Again, why we got involved in the technology business?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, here we are. We're recording now. So welcome, everybody, to our Managing Returns in Warranties webinar. What we're going to be covering today is how to, in MaxxTraxx, process regular returns just in restock parts. We're going to be covering some of the basics there. But more importantly, I think where we have a lot of challenges is what do you do when you have to warranty parts or warranty labor? What's the best workflow? Now, as you guys have been using the program for a real long time, you know there's a lot of different options. We have a lot of different ways to do this. So what we wanted to do today, Rex and I are just going to present some of the workflow options that we use. We know that you guys have come up with some different ideas and options, so looking to get some of your feedback on that, okay? So let's just start by opening up an RO. And the first thing we're going to do, let's just clean this out, is let's say somebody comes in and let's say we're going to do a great job, but we'll add something in addition. We could even do, Rex, what would we do for a reason for service if we wanted to just do a freeform note for the return, possibly?
Yeah, generally the freeform, or some people just create one they keep in there that they use for that kind of thing.
Good idea. Good labor service. So I'm just going to say freeform note because now I can add to this, of course, let's say I'm going to return a labor first, for example. They're doing a brake job, which is a whole separate deal. But let's say we charge them for a power steering flush the last time they were in, and we're going to credit it back because somebody forgot to tighten something and all the fluid leaked out, just for an example. So we would click on a reason for service, click the return button down here, or of course we can always right-click, and we're going to select labor service from list. So if I have a power steering, let's say an air conditioning service, we'll do that instead, and all the Freon leaked out. So when we select this, and it opens up our sales detail information window for this, a couple of things. We have technician's initials already showing up on this. Now, this may or may not be the technician that did the air conditioning service the last time that we're returning and crediting the customer back on. So we can always reselect who it actually was. Now, two things to remember in here. When you are crediting this back, this is going to be a negative hour billed to the customer. So we're going to give them back $95 as a credit. We can choose to either charge back that customer or that technician for the hour, or we could unlink these flat rate and bill rate and make it 0. Let's say we want to record that this was the technician that worked on this, but we're not going to, take it out of his paycheck. If he's a flat rate guy, or if you're even tracking your productivity reports and you put an hour in here, it's actually going to deduct it from his payroll if he's paid on flat rate, or of course it will report that on his productivity report minus 1 hour. So it really depends on how you want to run it in your shop, what you want your workflow to look like. But that's how it works. I'm going to click OK. And so this shows up as a $95 credit on our customer's repair order. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Any questions on that, guys? Okay, let's say we have to credit back for the R134 for the Freon. So I'm going to highlight the labor service because you'll notice just for fun. So we put an oil filter in this AC service. So here is the amount we're crediting them back, expensive oil filter. So what this is going to do, a couple of things, credit the customer back, and it's also going to put this oil filter inventory, oil filter 1 back in for inventory. So obviously, if it was something that we could get the credit back from the vendor because this part went bad, we're going to have now one of these parts in inventory with which to receive a vendor credit. If it's, a bad oil filter, it's junk, we're not getting warranty from any of our vendors, we would go ahead and credit out the customer and then go into the part record and make an adjustment and adjust one out. And it's just going to go to our cost of goods inventory adjustments as a lost part, ruined part, destroyed part, stolen part, whatever it be. Any questions on that workflow, how that is? Are you guys pretty familiar with doing this? You do returns in MaxxTraxx on a regular basis, guys?
Not too often.
Okay. Okay.
What? I do have a question, though. I tried to do this the other day, and I got a message saying that I want to say it said that I still had technicians to assign.
Okay. Was it on a credit?
Yeah, it was on the credit. So I had to take the technician out of the credit, and then it let me go ahead and process it.
Right. Now, you have a warning in your setup that says, warn me if I don't have technicians assigned to laborers, but you should be able to click on that and just move on past it. It's just a warning sign. It's not a mandatory, but you have to have that information. So you should be able to...
Actually, Sabrina, there's a bug in that area that I have seen come up where they just can't get around it without going into the setups, turning off that flag,
okay.
and then doing it, and then going back and turning the flag back on to force it.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, that's been fixed, but yeah.
What about if you're using the job clock?
Ooh, a credit on a job clock. You might have to click the little complete box. That's a very good possibility, Walter. Again, guys, the other option is to unlink these and make this 0. So even though their name may be linked to this credit, as long as it says 0 under the flat rate, it's not going to affect their productivity. It's not going to affect their pay if they're paid, commission or flat rate. So you can always check this box if you're using the job clock to get past that. Good question. And just 0 it out. And again, we're still crediting our customer back, but it's not affecting any of those numbers. And I'm going to put something in here just so I can have it as a positive amount. So you can see, and we still have a credit to go back to our customer. So let's say they're doing another job and it's a negative, and we post this onto the customer's account. We're done. Throw it out. It's not
It's looking at the billed hours, and it's looking at it backwards, so it's confusing it.
Okay, okay. We'll make a note of that. Maybe that's something we can get fixed in the next update, guys. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So I do have to go back in there and make this an hour instead of zeroing it out. But that's
is it doing that, or is it looking for the complete on the other labor for the job clock?
Good
that's
question.
the same warning you get. Yeah, so that's what it's doing. It's looking the labor for breaks to complete.
This is complete. Yeah. I'm not real sure. That's a really good question. And it wouldn't have anything to do with the part now, would it, Rex?
No.
Yep, we're good here.
The bug you were talking about? That's the
bug I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, that's what I found.
So it may just be either way. So let's go through the rigmarole if we had to do that. So we would just have to go into setups, prepare orders and parts invoices, and go to the RO setup screen and uncheck this box. If techs are not assigned, let's see if it takes care of it. Well, let me pay it out now. Yes, it will. Okay, good to know. So
and the danger there, of course, is always forgetting to put it back in.
Right, as soon as you do it. And I like this big red return up here. Actually, I don't recall seeing that. So at this point, Rex, we just charge it to AR Credit and then write them a check, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So we just would do that. And then if I go into and click finish, get these warnings. So now then I would go into the customer record. He is going to show a credit available right here, the 1783, and then I could just go to customer options and refund this AR credit and click on use and how I'm going to pay it. I could give them cash out of the cash drawer, which will come out of the money bag, or write them a check, which will bring up our write the check window, or just credit back their credit card. And it'll track it in our system, and then of course we manually have to swipe the card and enter in a refund. Yes, so that's how that all works. Oh, here's the cash, how that would work. And by the way, I know you guys, I see this screen all the time, and I'm always thinking to myself, oh, I need to do another double-sided entry. You actually don't. You just have to click on OK, because the other side is, yep, you bet. It comes right out undeposited funds, and it's actually reducing my receivables. Or actually, yeah, actually increasing it because it's already negative. So that's how that's all working. And that does, like I said, get tracked right here in the cash drawer as a cash payout. Any questions on that?
Sabrina?
Yes.
If it can always pay in as a customer credit, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
You can give it at a later date, correct?
You sure can, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
very good question. Yeah. So let's say that's how we do a labor. You know, we talked about this previous to this webinar, Rex and I. What if we have like a sublet? So a sublet, remember, in MaxxTraxx actually has an inventory account. We actually track our sublets as an asset until they're sold. Under accounting, chart of accounts, the 13,300 account. So we kind of talked about logistically, how would we handle this? Because technically, if we are in an RO and click on return sublet, it actually is going to put money, again, not part numbers, but money into this 13,300 account. And we were thinking, so if we want to keep this, right straight to, the way it should always be exactly financially, we probably would have to then go in and do a general journal entry under accounting and move the amount we just returned as a sublet from 13,000 and move it down to the 50,300 account, which is cost of goods sold sublet. So you guys know I always talk about, if you got to do a general journal entry, wait a minute, because we designed almost everything in the system to be run through any one of these features, so you don't have to do that. And a general journal entry is done in the background for you. But as we were discussing this, if you do return a sublet, and of course you're not going to get credit back from anybody unless, perhaps maybe the tow company would credit you back for that tow. If that happens, then you would go in, a restock part ticket, and do a refund, actual refund of that tow. Here, let's say it was a negative $55, you actually would add line item and choose from sublet labor list. But if you were not going to get a refund for the sublets, which, most things you probably wouldn't.
Choose receive credit.
Oh, sorry, receive credit for return sublet. Forgive me, yes, receive credit. Most circumstances, though, typically, guys, we probably wouldn't get a credit, right? So that's where we would want to go in and do that general journal entry. So that covers parts, labors, sublets on the ROs themselves, how we would actually refund them back to a customer. So here was an interesting one that came up a couple of weeks ago with another shop I was working with. Yes.
Can I take you back? The other thing that you and I had discussed as a possibility for avoiding having to do that journal transaction was if you were just going to write them a check to refund that money, and you could write the check and disperse it directly to your sales of sublet labor.
Exactly. It was right where it's going.
Your inventory amount of it. But what
Right.
you would lose was the repair order that showed that had been a refund, if that was important to you.
Yeah, the
Which
credit.
is another alternative, yeah.
Right. Well, again, for a part, if you ever get a refund on a part, technically we could actually do that as well. Just go back into the customer record, write them a credit, post it off to part sales or labor sales or income sublet sales. We could do any of those. But typically, if you're going to track that part as a return, you probably want to create an RO, credit the part, so you actually see that part going back into the part record inventory quantity and make the adjustment out. But yes, we talked about this option as well. It's a little bit smoother, shorter, doesn't leave quite as many crumbs in the trail, but if you put notes in, it'll work just fine. So if we click on customer search and just go into the customer record, we can go into customer options and create a new credit here. So now let's say we're crediting somebody back $50. And here, when we do our, we probably want to put in a pretty elaborate note so we know exactly what this is for. And then when we disperse it, this is where we are going to do one of the sales accounts. Either going to be a credit against, this will reduce our part sales, or we could reduce our sublets or reduce our labor. So we would just apply it there. And this will be, a refund, let's say, of break labor, just goodwill for a good customer or whatever. More notes than that, I always think. And then just click OK and save and close. And again, customer options and refund that AR credit if I want to go ahead and refund that $50 directly to the customer. Or, Rhonda, like you said, we could just leave it on the account to use later. So that was another way we could do that. The other option is if you want to, that's kind of more about gross profit. That's reducing your income. Conversely, the other way that I've seen shops track this is same thing. We're going to create a new credit. It's going to be $50 again. And, this is a refund of break labor. I have seen people put this on an expense account. Let's see if I have it in here. I think I created it. Where is it? It was a Goodwill account. We create a financial other. Let's see if it's still in here, guys. I guess we don't have it. But instead of having a warranty discount or a sales discount, I had a shop actually go in there and create a financial, Goodwill. So it really is an expense. It's increasing your expenses, which is reducing your net taxable liability, of course. And it's another separate line item, kind of like our warranty discounts, where you can see through the year how much was I refunding in Goodwill just to keep a customer happy. So that's why some people wanted to track it as an expense rather than crediting their income, because here you can't really divvy out at the end of the year how much did I actually give away in Goodwill, because it's just thrown into this big, huge account that's getting a lot of transactions. Makes sense to everybody, that the methodology of making an expense instead? Any thoughts on that? Do you think any of you guys would want to track it that way, that kind of detail?
That's the way we tracked it. It was just a fast, easy, clean way.
Yep. Yeah. And it like
the other the sort of the flip side of that, Sabrina, is when you're writing a repair order and you're using the warranty discount functions or even the discount functions, you've got the same choices there, but it has to be set up in the default account setups first. If you want your warranty discounts or any discounts to go to expenses as opposed to cost of goods, or cost of goods as opposed to expenses, you need to set that up in the setups so that the default already knows in advance when you choose to discount an invoice what account number that's going to be going to.
So financial sales discounts, let me jot it down, is 634-100, and warranty is 634-10. Okay, so if we are in an RO, let's get out of here. If we are in an RO and we do check this box, discounts, this, let's say 50% discount here, this $47.50 does go to $63,400. But then if I check the apply warranty discount box, this amount, the $47.50, goes to $63,410 automatically.
If your defaults are set up like that.
Yeah, does the system, I think the system comes set that way, no?
I off my top of my head, I don't know what the default settings are on them.
Yeah, I think it does. Let's take a look at
They should know where to go to change those.
Yeah, let's look. Under, good point. Under setups, under accounting and payroll, we have the default account posting. Again, the magic that happens in the background when we do the workflow, everything we do every day, it flows automatically by default to the general ledger according to this. So if we were in, let's see, it would be RO sales and cost of goods. So discounts, labor, not warranty, goes $63,400. Same with parts, $63,400. And you could actually set this up to track your discounts separately. I had somebody ask me about that last week, and I didn't even think we could divide that out, but we could. And then we're tracking our labor warranty and our parts warranty in $63,410 in that separate account. So you guys can kind of get a better feel if you're having a bunch of comebacks. And, of course, Sublet goes to its own as well. We actually don't have a Sublet warranty. We don't even have an option really on that. So, Rex, I don't think I ever set this up. This was
so that's probably the default on it, yeah. So yep. The point being, if they wanted it in above the line, if they wanted it to be a cost of goods, they have to set that up here. Yes,
absolutely. Good feedback. We definitely could do that there. Any questions on this, guys? I know we're kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of this, more of the financial end of it. You know, the other issue we have, I'm looking at my notes here, is let's say warranty labor. So this is always an interesting one. If we are, let's say we're doing a warranty brake job, and it was, you know, a Napa pads that went bad, or Napa rotors or whatever, and Napa is going to give us a refund back for that warranty labor because we discounted it, right? So what's going to happen when we click on the labor and we're going to discount this out as warranty, okay, it's going to go down to our expenses. So what do we do when we get the refund back from Napa? We could do a couple different things. And again, there's so many features. I'm just going to show you the way that we use it. If you have a better idea, let us know. Go into vendor, account payable list, and I look at Napa. I would go ahead and enter that credit. So enter new credit, you know, whatever their credit memo number is. And I might put it, you know, refund for warranty on maybe RO number if I want to put, you know, details. And then a couple different ways you can do this. You could, if this was, again, is warranty, let's say, labor, you could actually, let's say $100. We could actually disperse it to reduce, actually this would, a credit would increase our sales. So remember, if you wanted to actually write the credit and reduce your sales, labor, you can credit it back, which again would increase that. So we could say, yeah, we're going to put it back to $40,000. And what this would do is increase our sales labor because it's a credit. We're crediting a credit account. It makes it go up. Or what you could do, because remember, we have those expense accounts, you could actually credit the expense account instead. And this is actually the way I do it. Everybody's a little bit different, but I actually would credit my financial warranty discounts. So this would be reducing my expenses because, you know, I'm throwing expenses in here all the time because I have to do warranty jobs throughout the year. It's just a fact of life with the shop. But this actually would lower my expenses, right? So that's an option to you, a way you can do it. Now, if you are on cash with this, let's say it's a dealer, you're not on account with them, you still could select the credit to go here and save and close. And either, again, if you're on account, you can just apply it because I now have this credit memo. I can apply it towards my bill. Or we could always go in here and receive an AP credit refund, let's say the dealer or Napa, if you're on cash with Napa sends you a check. You could actually go in here, create the credit, and receive the AP credit refund. And it's right here, and we just say how they sent it to us. They sent us a check. Okay? And that, of course, just is like any other payment that you received. And that, again, shows up in our money bag. Interesting, again, you don't have to disperse it. The other side of the transaction is up here, and it automatically knows to reduce your payables. So that's what it's doing right there. Actually, increase it because it's a credit. I keep saying that. Any questions on how to receive that warranty? Okay. Now, let's say we warrantied out a part, and it's, you know, what happens a lot of times, let's say somebody comes in, they have a bad starter, and what you can do, which a lot of people do, let's just throw it on here, let's be official. You know, actually, no, we actually did the job. So we're going to say, do you want to save? No. Let's see if we got a starter in here. I don't know if we do. Well, let's say spark plugs. Okay, so we would do the spark plugs, right? We would do the labor. Let's see, I don't know if I have spark plug. I do. Okay, so here I could apply my warranty discount, right? So we're good there. We're not going to charge the customer anything for that 1 hour for the spark plugs. But what happens is, let's say we add the part. Again, I don't know if I have any spark plugs in here. Let's look. We do. Okay, so if I have a spark plug in here, and whatever this vehicle would be, so what happens, we could go in here, a lot of people do, and just apply a warranty discount. That way we're not actually charging the customer at all. See? Not charging them at all for this spark plug job. $0 to the customer. I just double-clicked, by the way, on the reason for service line guys to get us. Actually not apply the warranty discount here and go ahead and charge them for it, $30.28, and actually highlight your labor again and do returns part from part list for the exact same part number. So it says it's already on there. Do you want to add it anyway? Yes, because I'm actually getting a refund for those four. So my net is still a 0, right? My total to the customer is still $0. But now what I'm doing, I obviously had to buy 4 more to put the new ones in, right? But I'm actually putting 4 more back for the old junk ones that are for warranty in order to receive a vendor credit. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
Okay. So just kind of a little bit of nuts and bolts. People are often asking how to handle that. So that's how we do it. Now, if you guys know that you're not going to get money back from the vendor, you're just going to toss them. You don't have to go through that. Just go ahead and delete it. It'll keep your inventory correct, and just mark these as apply warranty discount. You guys are just going to have to eat it as a shop. You're not going to get credit back from the vendor. That's okay. It's really only if you're going to be trying to get a credit back from the vendor on that. So let's look. We've talked about the repair orders more on the sales side of handling credits, returns, and warranties. Let's look at what we do when we are receiving credit back from our vendor. Now, if you can create a purchase order for that. Let's say CarQuest, add line item. We have the option to get a part back from the vendor. We can get sublet back from the vendor, and we also get used core credit. So I could always just create, let's put this in here, 4, there we go. So I'm going to get 4 of those back. Okay, and I'll leave it at stock, obviously, because it's a credit, and click OK. So you can see it's a negative. And what I used to do, we used to have a pretty elaborate system, especially for WorldPack, because you have to have an RMA for them to even pick it up, is we had whole files full of all of our returns, and I actually would fill the whole thing out and have the parts people sign for it because I wanted to be doubly sure I knew that that was picked up on, October 20th or 21st, whatever it is. And that way, when I got to the end of the month and I reconciled my vendor statement to make my payment to them, and I didn't see credits on there, I could say, hey guys, I sent back a bunch of stuff 2 weeks ago and I haven't received my credit. So I used to do all that by hand. Well, with MaxxTraxx, we now have the ability to create the PO for a credit. So we can always click OK, save, and save this open PO. So at this point, when we get the credit memo back, we can just convert it. The other possibility, other than just doing it with a purchase order feature, is you could actually go in and create a restock parts ticket for the credit, and then once you receive it, go ahead, just save it to this list. And then once you receive it, go ahead and post it. You really could do it in either step, whatever you're more comfortable viewing for your credits. Kind of up to you. So that's pretty much how we restock it. So let's just look at this real quick. Let's go ahead and convert it to a vendor invoice. And again, it's going to be a negative $10.60. You guys know you can put negatives in here. And of course, this is just going to take it out of our inventory. So it corrects our inventory. We can post and update our inventory so it's on our CarQuest, and it would be, credit memo number, whatever their credit memo sequence is. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, guys. So I'm going to. Does anybody want to review anything other in the warranty area?
I have a question, Sabrina, on batteries that are prorated.
Yeah. Good point. Now, so when you do that, are you actually going to, so you need to put that part back in inventory, don't you?
Right. I've done it, fortunately, only twice, and I've done it one way and the other way, and I can't really remember off the top of my head exactly how I did it, but I got a pretty close number by using a partial of a one, of a whole, like maybe 0.8 or 0.7 or something like that. I got it fairly close, and I wasn't ever really sure. I don't do a lot of it, but when I do, it's kind of, you don't know what to do. You don't know which way to go with it.
Rex,
isn't that a case where you're receiving the old battery back from the customer and selling them a new battery at the prorated price? What if you received the old battery in, selling the new battery at the full price, and received the old battery in at the difference of the two?
Yeah.
Because you need to bring the old part in order to send it back to your vendor.
Right, but then the cost on the battery isn't going to be the same the next time. It's going to leave it into the system, as part of the parts record.
Are you talking about when you return it to the vendor, or are you talking about the RO to the customer?
The RO to the customer. I mean, what I did is I basically received a new battery, so charged the customer for a battery, and then gave them a credit or partial credit, which worked out to, I think, like within 8 or 10 cents of what the vendor had charged me by using, a point, like 0.8, let's say, of the whole, which got me close to that.
Okay.
You
so
can also override the sale price and the part in the
Yeah, I don't
discount
think
box.
I would go to a partial return, because you're talking about quantities there.
Right, but you have to receive a partial quantity too. If you're getting, if I'm getting charged for the battery and then the battery gets sent back to the vendor and they test it and they say, well, in the warranty period, we got to charge you X amount, it's going to be less than the full price of the battery, so there's going to be a difference on my cost.
But that has nothing to do with what you're doing with the customer. How you sell it to the customer isn't going to affect your cost. If I'm understanding what you're saying, if you sell one battery to the customer at, let's say, $100, and you receive a a battery back from him and give him a refund on that battery of $80, let's say it's 20%, then you've got one battery in stock to return to the vendor. And when you return it to the vendor, you're going to return it at whatever price he gives you to it. But returning a part isn't going to change your average cost in your inventory. But it's, I mean, one battery is one battery. It's not 0.8 of a battery.
Right. I guess I just don't see it on, on the end where it gets, where you receive it into the, into the system from the vendor.
Maybe we should just do one. Sabrina was kind of working through one on the screen here, but let's do that whole process, Sabrina.
So what we would do would obviously we have a new battery that we're selling to the customer for full price, $135.90. In fact, why did that come up differently?
Click your use matrix off.
Oh, thank you. Okay, $135.90. So that's how much our brand new battery is. And let's say it's only 4 months old. So prorating, actually it'd have to be whatever, over 6 months, isn't it, Derek, I think. So we would actually not give them a full credit back because they've got some usage out of it. They prorate it. So we actually, the customer would only be paying the differential. So we would actually be selling full price the new one, crediting back the prorated one. So let's say it's the proration chart that you have from Interstate or whoever you guys use is 119. So customer would pay the difference, right? So then what I would probably do right away so that I make sure I'm on track, so with save and pay, we did the whole rigmarole. I would probably go in right away, create a parts order or parts return, and actually I don't think I have Interstate, so we're just going to say it's CarQuest for fun. And I would do add line item and return item for vendor credit, MT25. Now my quantity is still 1, but my cost, whatever I'm going to be, it'll be $20 off my cost. So I would actually only get a $20 prorated credit. So I would then have to pay $31.95 for this battery. So I'm getting another battery. It's just not costing me so much because it's prorated.
Okay, but my question is now, after you go through all this, does that cost per item now stay as your new cost for that battery in your parts record?
Nope. Nope, because remember, the adjustments only go, oh yeah, that's right, it's a return. I want to, oops. Sorry, cost per item, quantity.
Quantity.
1. Yeah. Oh, darn it, you're right, Rex, I'm going the wrong direction. Add line item, return item for vendor credit, MT25, quantity 1. We could adjust it because we're not going to get full credit back. It's 20 bucks off. 30. So we're only going to get this much credit for that junk battery, and click OK. So it's negative. So no, well, yeah. First of all, refunds don't affect pricing. Number 1, and number 2, remember, in a part record. Let's just save this for a minute. In a part record, we have it set up here to, let's see where it's at, reset base cost. Now remember, if the box is checked to reset base cost, it only resets if the base cost goes up. It will
now,
never.
Is Derek concerned about base cost or average cost? Where's your concern, Derek, on what it's doing in the accounting, or when the next time you buy that battery, is the cost going to come up wrong?
Probably a little bit of both. Like I said, I haven't done this much, but I know with winter coming up now that's a possibility that it can happen. And I was just wanting to make sure that when when the time comes up, that I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure something out that appears to be really simple.
Rex, I don't think it actually. You think it will affect our average cost?
It should not. It's going to do a little math in the background, though, to compensate for the difference between the average cost and what you return it at, so that it keeps the inventory valuation correct. But it shouldn't affect your average cost on sending it back as a return, only as on purchases. But we can prove that out rather quickly.
Yeah.
So a quick question here, and maybe I'm just missing something. Why wouldn't we just take and calculate what we're going to discount the new battery to the customer for, sell it to them at the discounted amount? When we reorder that battery from the battery company, bring it in at our discounted amount, it's going to keep our GL square, and we will have accomplished everything, wouldn't we?
We need to return the bad battery back.
Yeah, we don't have anything to return to the vendor for credit.
Yeah, see, that's where I ran into it. When you receive that battery back in at the reduced cost because it's prorated, then I found that it changes the the base cost or the average cost because you're receiving it in as a different sum than what that battery normally is. That's why I thought, when I was figuring this out myself, to use a partial, and then when I get the credit, I just credit the partial back, and then it ends up being basically zeroed.
I see what you're saying, Derek. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, you're not affecting your average cost. So from your experiment, what you're saying is that yes, it does affect the average cost. The only problem is trying to get the exact amount could be a little tricky. Are you returning like 0.82 quantity of a battery? I could see it getting a little tricky. But I think
it's not that hard. You just take the number and divide it by, to divide it out. The problem is that on parts quantity you can only go 2 decimal points,
right.
And then you have rounding issues, which is usually within 10 or 15 cents.
Right.
True. Maybe I'm being a little thick here, and that happens from time to time. But the inventory is still square because I've got one on my shelf. I sell it to my customer. I do have to give the one I'm taking back. I have to give that back to my battery vendor, but he's still going to give me back another battery, which I'm going to bring into the system at a discounted price. So my inventory is still square.
That's
because you're going to deal with this in tires too.
Prorated tires, yeah.
And so really you haven't damaged your inventory, and you've taken care of everything in the simplest way. If they're going to prorate the battery for half, it's a $100 battery, you're going to charge them for a $100 battery, you're going to discount it $50. Now when you go to replace that battery, if that battery costs you $60 and they're going to sell it to you at $30, you take it in at $60 with a $30 discount.
So you're really
using... Does it kind of depend on whether you keep batteries in stock or not? If you're just ordering the battery as you need it, then perhaps that works for you. But if you bought this battery months ago and it's on your shelf and the guy needs it, you pull it off your shelf, you throw it on there, and then you're going to send his back to them, and they're going to send you a new one in exchange, or are they going to charge you for one and give you credit for one? It kind of depends on how the vendor works.
Right. Well, and in a lot of the cases, they're just going to put that one back on the shelf at a discounted price.
You know what you're saying then, Walter, Derek, is that we could actually just hold on to that tire or hold on to that battery, and it's really just going to be almost like a coupon the next time we buy the new part. Right. They're actually just going to discount on the new part rather than give us credit back for the prorated part and then sell us new part at full price. So what you're saying is that we're just holding on to that as if it were a coupon. When it comes to prorating, you're right, this is a little bit different.
Actually, Sabrina, I just looked and see what I did the last time, and I think it worked better for me. What I did is I created basically a part number just called battery adjustment. That's a generic adjustment, number. And I sold the customer battery, credited them a full battery, and then received the credit adjustment. And that way, I think that's the way I ended up doing it the second time, which seemed to work a little better for me. So on the RO, it looks a little funny because you've got 3 actual parts to make, to make the sale. But that was the way that I could keep my battery, because that's the thing is I stock batteries. So
Right.
I could keep the costing the same, and then when I receive the adjustment, I just receive it for that adjustment amount under a different part number. Not necessarily. It's just a generic part number. It's just BAT, space ADJ as what I have.
Right. So the question is, if you have 3 items for the battery on the RO, you're essentially, we're just talking quantities now. I don't care about cost. We're essentially selling the customer 2 quantities and receiving 1 quantity back.
No, I have sold 1 quantity, credited 1 quantity, and then added the adjustment to the to the RO. So then that way it just shows the adjustment amount.
And the adjustment is a credit?
Well, it's not a full credit. It's prorated. It's not the full price of the battery. You know what I'm saying? He has to pay part of it because it's prorated. He's used it a little bit, so he has to pay partial of it.
So,
what's happening with the quantity on that bogus battery warranty part?
Well, usually what I do, let me get it back up in my system here. Just bear with me a second here and get it back up. Like for instance, this battery was $108.50, so that's what I was a plus that I sold it to him. Then I did a battery return for that same battery for $108.50. And then what I did is I have another, just a generic part that I would use for many other batteries as a battery warranty adjustment, which ended up charging out $83.03 to the customer because it was a fairly old battery, had very little warranty left on it.
Right.
So that's how that came through. Then what I did to get that that part received is when I got the credit for the battery, I received it as that adjustment under that adjustment part number, and basically I just zero out the quantity right after I get that done. I go into the to the part record and just make a manual adjustment and bring it up. Now this is what where my whole question is that if I do that enough times, it's going to affect my ledger eventually when I start using this for the full accounting. Correct?
Yeah. Because why isn't this? Oh, this is coming up as a credit. Why won't let me put an amount in here? Oh, it's 7.
I don't mean to hog all the time here on something that's fairly simpler that most people don't have to deal with. So if we want to look at this some other time, we can.
Yeah, I think what we do is we powwow and come up with an optimal way of handling that, and do a little white paper on it and
yes. And write it up and get it out to you guys. Yeah.
Put it up for everybody's consumption, and I think that's a very good poser there, Derek. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay,
and
Derek,
go
ahead.
I think it's really important because you are going to be dealing with this on a couple of items. You do have your batteries, and there's people with tires that are going to have to deal with it too. So it really is an important point.
Okay, Derek, so like, for example, this is not going to be a credit. It's going to be a charge, right?
It's going to be a charge. It's going to be a positive one, yeah.
Okay, so you want, okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand you correctly so when we go through this, and I appreciate everybody else on the call listening to this. I hope this is a concern for everybody. So this is a scenario. Oops, uncheck this. I keep forgetting to uncheck that new feature. Okay, so essentially, I meant to put this in here at 35 bucks.
You didn't put it back in.
35. Now click OK. You have no issue. Want to continue without yes. Okay. So this is how you're doing it, Derek. You're returning it, charging for the new one full price, credit full price, and just charging them for the difference that they used essentially.
Right. And then because I have a need to restock the part, I usually do this after the fact. Then after I pay the bill, I tell it to to order the part from the vendor, and then I receive that credit in, and then it seems to wipe it out. The only thing is now I have on my inventory list. I don't know if that eventually is going to keep building up and up and up or not. I would think
that inventory count is going to keep going more and more negative.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which as long as we don't have a cost associated with it, doesn't affect our general ledger. But as soon as there's an average cost in there, now you've got you've done this 10 times, and you've suddenly got a cost of $50 as an average cost in there. You've got $500 negative in your inventory. That's not necessary.
But if I received this $35 from a vendor invoice, wouldn't that make it basically zero again? If I went negative and then I received it, it brings it to zero. Or
so
if
you're actually putting this item on your vendor invoice when you're purchasing it?
Exactly, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because that's
no,
the way.
Then you're good.
Okay, because the way the parts store does it, they actually charge me for a full battery on their slip, and then they show me the the credit underneath it, and then the difference between the two is what what the cost is. It's kind of odd the way they do it, but that's the way they do it.
We're going to take this offline, Derek, but I really appreciate you bringing this up, and we'll do a white paper, and everybody that's on the call, when we get through this, I'll send you an email with it addressed. But this is precisely why we do these webinars. You bring up great situations, scenarios that what the best practices in MaxxTraxx. So I think as far as the warranties, return, crediting it to the customer, restocking, I think we're all good on that. This is kind of a separate issue in regards to prorating, right? Do we have any other questions on warranties or returns other than this prorating issue? Okay, so I think what we'll do, we'll take that offline. We'll come up with this strategy, and then we'll email all you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our recording today. Thank you, everybody, for being on the webinar. So if you just hold tight with us just for a moment, I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.